Greetings, listeners, and welcome to The Spiritual Experience, a show where we share stories of life, love, and redemption for all of humanity on Earth. So sit back and enjoy. Try to identify with the speakers and not compare. Don't forget to subscribe on all podcast platforms. I'm your host, Jay Lewis, and here we go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back, Spiritual Experience. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, however you are. I hope you guys are well. Yeah, we're back. We just, we just did an episode with my buddy Liam, who I enjoyed very much interviewing that guy. He's like one of my favorite people on earth. And it was a fantastic time. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If not, definitely go back and listen. And here we are. Okay. So, what's going on? The other day, I think it was actually the same day. I don't know what day it was. It was on Tuesday. I was at a meeting. It was a 9th step meeting. For those of you who don't know, the 9th step is about making amends to those we've harmed, except when to do so would injure them or others. And as somebody who has made it a habit of doing this kind of stuff, in order to stay sober, initially that's what I was told, but now it's like a whole nother thing. I gotta say, there was like a lot of horse shit that was going on in the meeting, and it was actually, it was infuriating me. This lady, she was talking, and, she was just sharing her experience or whatever. I gotta get closer to the mic. I don't know why the mic sounds a little funny today. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe I feel a little bit rushed, but that's all right. We're never pressed for time. We're always on time. So, what's the deal? So this lady, she was talking about how, she had this whole list of people who, she had to make an amends to, and all of this other stuff. And, because of harms that she did. And then, her sponsor was just, guiding her down this path of just, bullshit. I couldn't believe what this lady was saying anyway. So this is what she was saying. She was saying that she had this list of people whom she had harmed, and it all had to be, they whittled it down to however many people, maybe five or seven people or something like that, or 10 people or something. If your list of people that you have harmed in your whole life is only 10 people, you are doing something 100% wrong. That's like a fact. We have to make these inventories, and you got to go back and you got to try and make things right everywhere that you can. Everywhere that you can. So this lady was just it's oh my God. And she'd been sober allegedly for a long period of time. Or she'd been in the program for a long period of time, but she definitely hasn't been sober that long. Because I was just I even had to call my sponsor afterward because I was so mad. I was like, dude, is this lady sponsoring other people? I don't know, whatever. And she had more time than me. Maybe she had 20 years or something. And yes, I am judging. I'm judging her program. I'm judging her because it was so insane. Basically, this is what it was. She was just saying that she had to go and make amends to people or harms that she had done that were alcohol related only. Alcohol related only. So, it doesn't even make any sense. That means when I was drunk, I did this. So that means you were a fucking angel for the rest of the time of your life, and you were only, you only behaved selfishly and lied and manipulated only when you were drunk? Or it was just It was things like she was talking about that, you know, she did to her ex-husband, like, oh, I broke the windows in his car or something stupid like that. And I was just like, oh my God, this is poison. You know, this is poison that this lady's sitting there spitting. And she's like kind of spitting it self-righteously. And I am judging her self-righteously because I was like, oh, you do not have the program and you are missing the whole thing. Because no, when you go and make amends and restitution to people in your life, it is not only alcohol related. It is all related. It is you related. Your relationship to the world many times is the problem. And yeah, that was my experience. So obviously I couldn't wait to share, you know, and it goes around the room or whatever. And the one thing that really shocked me, and this is when I had to like spray the corner. The one thing that really shocked me, and I was just like, oh my God, this is somebody's mom. She's like, oh, well, I have these, I had these 2 kids, an ex-husband or whatever. Maybe she had 3 kids. And she was like, you know, I never really sat down with them. I just did a living amends. I started showing up to the things the right way. And, you know, I made a toast at my kid's wedding. And she said all these things. And I was just like, oh my God, where is the freaking accountability, lady? Where is that? Who are you? Like, that's so crazy to me that she had somebody that was showing her that this is the way it needs to be done. And I was like, absolutely not. Specifically when it comes to your kids. You can't do it that way, bro. I'm sorry. If you are doing a living amends to your children, then you are not, I don't want to hear this other shit that like, no, it's about changed behavior. Yes, of course it's about changed behavior. That is a portion of it. But the other portion, and this is what I shared, and I could not wait to, my ego could not wait to share. I said, I have sat down and I have made amends to all of my kids face to face. And I sat them down and I said, listen, my attitudes, my behaviors in these instances, a lot now I use then this, I tied it into like the 10 step. I do it I do it right away when I can. I don't let things linger. I don't like to have many loose ends when it comes to my relationships in my life. You know, sometimes it takes time to figure stuff out. And then when you are ready, once you have it figured out, say, okay, I got to approach this situation and this thing and blah, blah, blah. Then you just got to go ahead and do it. And I think that's the difference between me and how I did it and what this lady was doing. Like my first sponsor, Andy, man, bro, I had like, I don't know, maybe 60 people or something, or I don't know how many people there were, but there was a lot. It was a lot of them. And I had to go to every one of them face to face. And I had to say, listen, there are things that transpired that you know about, I know about, and maybe here are some of those things. You know, I don't have to rehash every single thing I did to somebody, but I can let them know that the main reason why our relationship went the way that it went, the main reason why our interactions went the way that they went was because of my attitudes and my behaviors and my selfishness. And I know that I hurt you, and I'm sorry. And you're right. And if there's something that I can do to make it right with you, please, I am willing to do whatever that is. And then I shut the fuck up. And whatever they tell me to do is what I do. And that's it. Some people like, no, let it go. Some people let me have it. Some people are just like, no, it's not a big deal. Some people like, yes, do A, B, C, X, Y, Z, and then we're square. And that's it, you know? But this lady didn't even do that with her kids. Like, bro, like, are you crazy? One thing that I have learned on this earth, and I've only learned it recently, or I've known it, maybe I've cemented it recently, is that people require validation, and empathy. So I don't believe in those like unspoken words of I'm sorry. Like, no. Like, dude, my parents, they never said sorry to me ever. Like, what kind of shit is that? Who doesn't apologize to their kids? Say, listen, you know how I behaved in this situation right here? Dude, I was all the way wrong. I was behaving like this, this, and this. And then, it was wrong. The way I reacted was wrong. I was angry. I wasn't willing to listen to your side. It doesn't mean it changes the outcome, but it allows the other person, especially one of your children, to be viewed as a human being with dignity. And when you're not doing that, you are just bullying them. You are saying, listen, get over it. That's what you're saying. I'm the boss. You get over it. You have to live here. I support you, or whatever. I deserve, or you don't deserve acknowledgement. You don't deserve that acknowledgement. And then you send them out into the world, and then you wonder why they are like that. Why people are unwilling to be honest and unwilling to be, fearless in problem solving in life, where it doesn't mean you have to approach everything 100% head on, but you need to have accountability, and you need to have, I read that book, Extreme Ownership. Shout out Jocko. Extreme ownership. Dude, this is my bad. This is where I screwed up. And I'm willing to accept whatever comes with that. If that means that you are no longer in my life, that's what that means. If that means that once I clear the slate with you, that I can make that choice that you are no longer in my life, that's what that means. Making an amends for me is not a bridge building thing all the time. It's about me empowering myself and being able to take back power in my life and not be controlled by all of these little things, these tethers. I'm tethered to people that I owe, whatever it is. And sometimes I just owe them respect. I had to make amends to people that I dragged my feet, in recovery. My first couple of lists of people, my first list, dude, I had to make, my sponsor was just like, my first list, I was like, bro, I had all these people, whatever, like I said, let's say 70 people. Dude, he was like, yo, you're doing 3, who's the first 3? Who's the next 3? Who's the next 3? Who's the next 3? Who's that, like, and that was it until they were fucking done. Until they were done. There was no like, oh, I'm going to wait for God. If God will put them in my path, then I'll make that wrong. I'll try and make it right. Like, no, I had to go out and seek these people. Who did I not seek out? I did not, like, he crossed people off the list. People who bought drugs from me. They would have bought them from anybody else. Ex-girlfriends at the time was because of, you got to check your motives, right? You got to check your motives. I don't want to, sometimes the best thing I could do is just leave them all alone. There was none of them that I ever treated with any amount of dignity all the time. I viewed them all as less than, and I wouldn't say not my equal. I can say that, not my equal. I viewed them all as less than, because I viewed everybody as not my equal, not just particularly women, but women that I was in relationships with. Yeah, that's what it was, man. I was like a bully. I was an emotional and mental bully, and that's what I did. And I've only not been like that recently. And when I mean recently, I'm 42. I didn't even really know I was doing that until maybe I was in my mid-30s or something. And then by that, I was like in a relationship that I wanted to be in more than anything else. And I guess I was ready as a man to put in that work and to change who I am. And it was one of those tools where I like, bro, in my house with my woman, are you crazy? The amount of times I had to sit there, I have had to sit there and apologize sincerely for disrespecting her, for making her look like a fool in different ways. Yeah, a lot, my character defects, my attitudes, my behaviors, the way that I speak to people, it's not always with love. And it's to the point where I am grateful that she's even around. And we have really turned a corner in the last 4 years, whatever, 5 years. Bro, I've been engaged for over 5 years, and it's only now that she's like, okay, I'm ready to walk down the aisle. I had to give up that, I had to give up that thing. I had to give up that dream. I was like, oh, well, I asked her to marry me. She said yes. And it's been years. And I'm not going to say cold feet or whatever. They take what it takes for somebody to get over stuff. And, I never, I didn't put my hands on any other women and stuff like that. But I've done other things that made her question whether or not she wanted to spend the rest of her life attached to me. And a lot of it had to do with, it's not about like, oh, your other, like I said, it's not about infidelity. It's about all of the other things. All of the other things. My energy, my control issues. Am I willing to change? Am I willing to be nice and to be loving and to not just like think. It is funny because like I said this, I think in a meeting a couple of weeks ago. Maybe I'm repeating myself and I don't know. But if I am, too bad. But I remember I was like telling this chick in the meeting, I was like, it's not just me calling my girlfriend, my fiance, whatever, calling her stupid or saying that her idea is stupid or that story is stupid or her perspective is stupid. It's not just that. It has been a long time since I've said those things. Like I said, we're talking years that I've said that. I used to say it, like, bro, it's a stupid idea. Like, I would never say that right now. Because I've gotten to the point where I stopped saying that, and then I've turned into not even thinking that and not even believing that. And that's where, like, the real change in behavior comes from. For I don't even think any of her ideas are stupid. And I used to think everybody's ideas were stupid if they were not my own. And that's what's cool. So, like, you know, how do you get there? You get there by many nights at the table saying, listen, I was wrong. How I reacted was wrong. I didn't have all of the information. I was not listening to you. All of those things. And I was wrong because I was too worried about myself and my own self-preservation that I was not thinking about you as a human being. So there's that, right? You know, how many times have I had to do that? And then whatever comes after that, if that means 2-3 days sleeping on the couch, it means I never went with a cold meal, but a cold bed, yes. And if that's what that means, that's what that means, you know. You know, in some ways we're very conservative in the fact that she will make sure that I am always fed like a champion. And I respect her for that. And I honor her for that. She has principles that she stands on like a freaking, like the way that you think like the mafia was supposed to stand on their principles, or like gangbangers in a corner, like, yo, we have these principles and we stand on them, and that's how my woman is, man. She's like a pillar. She doesn't waver, man. She doesn't waver. So in those things, I'm good. So I'm just saying that to say that, like, dude, this lady, I couldn't wait to just say that shit. Like, dude, my kids, they may be screwed up in different ways, and that's cool because we're all growing up at the same time, including myself and them at the same time, except I am responsible for taking care of them. I'm not responsible for having all of the answers. I give them as many cheat codes as I possibly can. And that's that. So I think I got to pause. Yeah, hold on. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I had to take a break. Somebody was coming into where I was at when I was recording, so I had to stop. And then after that, I had to leave, and I went and I just chaired my 3 o'clock meeting, step 4, last half of step 4, the inventory, which was great. And it's funny because that, in between then and now, I've had talks with all kind of people, constructive, challenging conversations, which I enjoy. I don't like everybody who just kind of rolls over anyway, if I remember correctly, because I'm just going to try and seam this together instead of going back and listening. But I remembered I was talking about that lady making those bullshit amends to her kids. And bro, this was the point that I wanted to make. That was important to me. I look at my kids, I have 3 of them. I do. And they're all very different. And which is why I treat them all very different. And I believe that you should. Because I am respecting their individuality. And that's how it goes. They all need and don't need different things. And I have to play to their strengths in some of them and play to their weaknesses in others and challenge them and put them in uncomfortable situations. That way they can learn and grow and whatever. And sometimes me doing that, I overstep myself, whatever you want to call it. The other times it's like, sometimes I'm just, sometimes I just mess up. I'm a human being. I say the wrong things. I think the wrong things. And I do the wrong things. And when I acknowledge that in them, when I say to them, listen, I'm sorry about, that I said this and that I did this or that whatever. I don't really say, I'm sorry that you feel this way. I'm sorry you feel like I offended you. I'm like, no, because that's like such bullshit. Like, I'm sorry that I offended you. And this is what I believe. And if my belief offends you or whatever, then it does. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to go down this space where kids' feelings are not valid. And because that's what it kind of like was for me, And even though, as a parent, I know that the way that my kids' perceptions of reality, they're from the lens of a young person. Their world is so small compared to a grown-up's world. But their world is their world. So what's a big deal for them is a big deal for them in their little life. And I have to respect that. And I do respect that. And when I was listening to this lady just talking this shit about living amends and just, kind of water under the bridge, whatever. I just thought that was like such a cop-out. And changed behavior, like I said before, is imperative. And also, changed behavior doesn't come overnight. No way. Oh my God, it takes so long for somebody like me to stop doing something. Because many times, I'm just I'm a Pisces, man. I'm swimming. There is, sometimes I can be inconsiderate. And that's a thing, means that I did not consider somebody or something else. And children can be very inconsiderate. And I let them know, listen, what you're doing right now is very inconsiderate. And I explain to them why. Because these are things that I learned. And I use myself as the example because I let them know, say, listen, everything is attached to one whole string. It's all a chain of events. So in these moments, if I'm only thinking about what I want to do and I'm not thinking about, I'll make this person wait for 15 minutes. Like if my kids are not ready on time, right? Let's just say this. We'll use this as an example. My kids are not ready on time. We get somewhere late. Now, in New York City, if you are 15 minutes late leaving somewhere, you will be close to an hour late getting somewhere. I don't know how that math works out, but it's been like that my whole life. And I like to try and be as punctual as I can because there have been many times in my life where I was not. And one of my changed behaviors was respecting other people's time. That's the way I learned how to be considerate. The first things first was like, okay, don't be late. That's it. Don't be late. When I was a younger person, a young kid, and I was working in finance, you could not be late. It didn't exist. It doesn't exist. That's what they would say. Like, what do you mean be late? It doesn't exist. Being late does not exist. The market opens at this time. You are to be on the telephone at this time. I remember they would say, it was so funny. Like if you had to be on the phone, let's just say, I don't remember exact times. Let's say you had to be on the phone 7 o'clock in the morning or something. They'd be like, dude, if it is 7:15 or 7:05 or whatever, and you're still on the train, they would say, just stay on the train. Go back home. Do not come in. They don't want to hear train delayed. Nobody wants to hear anything. You need to prepare yourself to be on time. And, So I learned about that in a selfish way, because I was getting something out of it. But, if I showed up fashionably an hour late to a party, I showed up 2.5 hours late to my mom's house once, not that long ago, for my own birthday, to the point that everybody was just going to leave. They were just like, dude, this kid, you're supposed to be here at 6. It's 8:30 and he's not here. Or I just rolled up. And, so it has to do with, my kids or whatever, my family members, people inside my house, the ladies who are always behind. Anyway, so I let them know and say, listen, when I have to take you to school, if you are 7 minutes behind, then I'm going to be half an hour or more late to my first meeting of the day, or my first function of the day, or whatever. And that's because you are 7 minutes behind. And because when I tell you to get up at this time and I come and I wake you up, you want a few more minutes to sleep. And then you don't rush to make that different. And then it screws up the rest of my day. And then I look like I'm late. When the truth is, I'm late because of you. And as a young person, it's impossible for them to connect all of these dots. You know, it's just not possible. Their brain is not all the way fully formed for them to even understand that. So that is why I have to teach them that. And I show them that. Say, it's all attached. So I say it's all part of this one string. You pull this one yarn, and that yarn keeps going. So your actions and your behaviors affect everything around you. And, you know, and that's a good lesson to learn. Because I didn't learn that until I got into AA. And I didn't really start. I've been practicing it for some time, but I didn't start practicing it on a selfless level until, I don't know, how long ago, whatever, my mid-30s maybe. And I got sober when I was 24. So it's a work in progress, and everybody is a work in progress, including this lady who I have been lighting on fire for the last 20 minutes because she thinks that she is, you know, whatever. She's doing it her way. And I made it my business in that meeting to let people know that there's a lot of selfishness in the way that she was doing it. And there's more healing to be done by the acknowledgement of other people's feelings, even if you don't even understand them. Acknowledgement, validation. I don't know why my partner feels a certain way when I do something. Maybe I planted that seed. Maybe that tree was growing when I showed up. But the way that I stay close to her is by acknowledging that. And whether I understand or not, I can change my behavior. And I can say, well, every time that I tell her, calm down, whoosh, my God, she can probably hear me from here saying that, and she's getting angry in the gym, where she is right now. But yeah, I tell her to calm down, and I say that not in a controlling, and her first reaction, don't you fucking tell me to calm down. Like, you know, the more angry she gets, the more Puerto Rican she gets. And that's the truth. And she is completely full of class, and she's eloquent, and she speaks better than me. She reads better. She's everything better than me in those ways. She's a lot like my mama. She reminds me of my mom. Either way. But when I say, hey, calm down, right? It's because I am feeling threatened in some way, right? But those words, bro, it's like a trigger. Oh, my God. She's like, to her, that means, oh, you want me to turn up. Is that what you're asking me to do? And then she does the thing where she like, I don't know if you guys can hear, but I'm going to like clap my hand to something where like she talks with one hand clapping. Like, motherfucker, ba, 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 right? And I'm just, don't you ever tell me to calm down. And so like, okay. So I try not to tell her to calm down, and I try not to laugh when she's angry, which are two things that I do. You know. So it's an irrational reaction to me telling her to calm down, but it's real to her. So I just got to say, hey, man, that's real. And I can not use that term. You know how I get her to calm down if I can, when I can. Number one is by like de-escalation, which comes from, when I smell that there's tension, I talk about this all the time. And I do it because it's a very important part. De-escalation, when I feel that there's tension, something going on, it's because one or both of us do not have all of the information. And the way that I say that when I can is I say, I'm sorry, I'm not understanding fully what's going on. Maybe I'm missing something because this is what I'm hearing and this is what I remember and blah, blah, blah. So, now it's very hard. How do you get mad at that? You know, when somebody says, hey, look, I don't have all the information. You know stuff that I don't. So please share with me because I'm not understanding everything. You know, that's like an honest thing to say. And that's with my partner. Why do I don't want to start, there can be tension. I don't want to start arguing. Are you yelling? I can't remember the last time I yelled at her. I don't know. Maybe it's got to be. If I really thought about it, it's probably like maybe 3-4 years that I yelled. Like, what the, that I yelled. Yeah, because that shit gets nowhere. And I lose that battle every time. And it turns into, oh, you want to yell? Then who's going to yell louder? And some people, specifically women, can yell without yelling. They'll be like, okay, and then what, right? Then what happens? Same thing, right? Sleeping on the couch, 3 days, whatever the punishment is. The punishment is distance. That's the punishment, and I don't want that. I don't want that distance, that tension. Who wants to pass their time like that? And even if it's severe, like between two partners, or if it's like just, is this the word smoldering? Like bubbling, but on a very low hum. That distance and that tension between me and my kids, I can snap those like little ribbons by just saying I'm sorry and listening to what they say. And even if it sounds like, it's like, bro, I know in your little language that is calculus. In my world, that is Etch-a-Sketch. But I get it. And I'm going to have to just say, yo, that's calculus. And, maybe you'll feel differently another day. Maybe I'll feel differently another day. But I can try and stop doing that. And you have to meet me halfway by you stopping doing this thing, whatever it may be. And we take it from there. But it can't just be like, compliance. I'm the adult, you're the kid, you have to comply. You can get compliance without it being like that. Nobody should be like the general or whatever. But that's how I was. Shamefully. In one way, shamefully, but in another way, also I got to give myself a break too. Like, bro, I wasn't doing it on purpose. I literally did not know. But I was in a program where I was trying to learn. And I was in therapy where I was trying to learn. And that's where that change comes. The change comes in taking steps. And doing those steps, doing those inventories, and having that humility, eating that fucking humble pie. Oh, my God. Eating that humble pie of sitting across from somebody face to face and being like, I am sorry. And listening, painfully listening, and then maybe learning, And the other thing also is being patient, because not everybody communicates on the same time frame, yeah, not everybody communicates on the same time frame. Sometimes people need days. It takes me, oh my God, I can't even imagine. It takes me days for me to fully understand something when I am, now it doesn't take that long, but it used to take a long time for me to understand what's going on when I'm disturbed, when I'm angry. You know, somebody did something to piss me off. I take it personal every freaking time. They didn't make a mistake. No, they were trying to hurt me. You know, I had to unwire that kind of thinking. But as I have reflection, and when I talk to people like Liam and everybody else and all my people who are straight up honest with me, they're like, hey man, no, that was messed up. I was like, no, you know what? You sound like you're full of shit. You know, and I have friends that these are my families, my brothers, my sisters, that's how they talk to me because they want me to win. They want me to win. That's why they're honest with me. And they'll be like, listen, take it easy, you know, or whatever. So it could take days for me to understand everything. And that's why the one thing I could work on is my behavior. I remember I used to talk with my girl about this, that she used to be like, I feel like you don't understand me. And I'd be like, dude, I may never understand why this bothers you. I may never. It doesn't make sense to me. And that's okay. You know, I need to respect that it bothers you. And then work on changing my behavior. And work on changing my attitude towards the fact that it bothers you. You know? And that's, you know, that's where we're at with it. It's not easy. You know, it's definitely not easy. But I enjoy the work because it just allows me to be a better person. You know? It allows me to be a more understanding human. I just got off the phone with somebody that I love. I fucking love this guy. I grew up with him. I didn't grow up with him. We grew up kind of like together in a weird, almost family way. Either way. So he's telling me what he doesn't like about, you know, I have to try not to get offended by these things, but it's good. But he's like, yo, this is what he's like. You're a Rogan guy, right? And I'm like, okay, here we go, right? My Karate Kid bandana is going right on my head. Yes, right? He's like, well, I don't like A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And I'm like, okay, you know. And I said, I don't like some of this stuff. I love some of that stuff, and like whatever. He's like, I used to listen. I don't listen. I listen to Mark Maron. And him I don't listen to. I only have so much bandwidth. I should, you know, and there may be something that I don't like. But, like, you know, I have to say that, you know, becoming a listener, not just like, oh, here's sound bites or whatever, blah, 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 but listening to the Joe Rogan Experience has been one of the most impactful things in my whole life. Like one of the most impactful things. And not because of him, but because of the people that he has on. I personally, and I hope he'll never have me on his show. But if ever, I personally, and this is just my opinion, I don't find him to be a funny guy. And that's what I was telling my friend. I was like, dude, I don't listen to his I don't watch. I tried to watch a few of his comedy specials. That kind of comedy is not for me. I don't know why. I don't like it. I find him to be funny when he's on the podcast. But through him, you know, geez, man, the health impact. He's super about being healthy. You know, whether he takes steroids, but like exercise, challenging yourself, reading books, being honest. He talks about the 4 agreements all the time. Be impeccable with your word. Always do your best. Like if you watch like little Instagram clips, he's always like trying to motivate people to be better. He's like not a freaking hater, but from him, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, incredible. Oh my God, that's why I was introduced to Theo Vaughn, the best. Gang, gang. I'm upstairs. Right? Jocko Willink. Jesus Christ. If you don't listen to Jocko's podcast, you should stay away because it will force you to look at yourself and get tactical and accomplish things in your life and be happy and be loving and persevere. I enjoyed Jocko's podcast is my favorite one. Joey Diaz, incredible comic. I don't remember everybody's name, but I've listened to 5,000 hours or 10,000 hours of the Joe Rogan Experience, and there's always something. Some people I skip. Oh, Lex Friedman, come on. Crystal and Sagar, who have like one of the most unbiased shows, Breaking Points. I started listening to them on The Hill, and then on that, Breaking Points, boom, right? All of these things, man. Matt Taibbi, incredible journalism. Like, this guy had Oliver Stone on there. Oh my God, to die for. Anyway, so it's the experience, So anyway, so my friend, he doesn't really care for him that much anymore, and that's okay. And then, I told him, I was like, bro, I said, but you know what? I said, but then here I am falling for the plan. And he wasn't dissing him. He was just, it wasn't his cup of tea. I was like, bro, I hate Rachel Maddow. I hate her, And he's like, right away, he's like, oh, I listen to her every day and I love her. And I said, well, after he gave me his reasons why he doesn't care for Joe anymore or whatever, I gave him the reasons why I don't like Crystal, what's her name? Rachel Maddow. I was like, bro, so entitled and blah, 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 blah. And I gave him my full clip, right? But I am also guilty of some of these same bozos that want to cancel JRE, that I don't watch Rachel Maddow. And just from what I've watched, which is like, if I strung it all together, maybe it would be like 2 hours. Maybe, maybe it would be like 2 hours. And all I do is listen to these stupid gotcha moments. I told them why I didn't like her. I said, because I felt that she was entitled, and I felt like Hillary was very entitled. And I think that everybody matters. Even people who vote for Donald Trump, like they matter. People who vote for Joe Biden, they matter. For Bernie Sanders, everybody matters. And they were very dismissive of 100 million people, 150 million people, whatever. However many people got Orange Boy into the jump seat, they were very dismissive of them. And I don't like people who are dismissive of other people like that. Similar to what we're talking about with this 9th step amends. Like, their feelings matter, bro. The kids' feelings, they matter. You may not understand it, but they matter. And then they're like, oh, Russia and this and that. And anytime I talk to somebody, look, I could talk to Liam about the Russia. He's like, hey, it was true. It was true. I'm like, bro, that was like debunked like 17,000 times. And plus, we do that in everybody's elections. And even if it is true, it's not 100 million people. And they're like, oh, what about, well, Hillary, she won really the popular vote, so she really won. And then now they want to change the Electoral College. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe they should change the super delegates too, who held my boy Bernie down into the mud, right? But who does Joe Rogan have on his show for an hour at a time? Bernie Sanders, right? Anybody else giving him an hour, right? Joe gives him a whole hour, get everything out. Andrew Yang, oh my God, I loved Yang. I love Bernie Sanders. I love Tulsi Gabbard. She is incredible. She's a warrior. She's a veteran. You know, she served in Congress. She served overseas, multiple tours. Bro, she's a woman of color. She's smart. She's like center right. She's a little bit right, but still, you know, she's a practical human being. Yeah, man. If she was in the, and she left the DNC because, you know, because of the shit that they were pulling, right? And then Hillary calls her like a Russian operative, you know. And I already went on my Hillary rant last episode or 2 episodes ago. So you're gonna have to go back and listen to that because then you'll understand. But you know, yeah. So like with Rachel Maddow, like, you know, she's allowed to, you know, bro, she rubs me the wrong way. Just the entitlement. And her just saying all of those crazy things, like, you know, the horse tranquilizer, the horse tranquilizer, whatever they said. Like, bro, I don't have to go into this guy's past and pull up everything that he took, but it was like, you know, I mean, come on. It was crazy, but this is my favorite.
It means instead of the virus being able to hop from person to person to person to person, spreading and spreading, sickening some of them, but not all of them. And the ones that it doesn't sicken don't know they have it, and then they give it to even more people because they didn't recognize they were, right? Instead of the virus being able to hop from person to person to person, potentially mutating and becoming more virulent and drug resistant along the way, now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus does not infect them. The virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else. It cannot use a vaccinated person as a host to go get more people. That means the vaccines will get us to the end of this if we just go fast enough to get the whole pop. It means that instead of the
So, like, it's okay that she was wrong. Like, crazy wrong. Unbelievably wrong. Maybe the people, whoever told her that, maybe that was the best information they had at the time. And obviously that is not true. But that doesn't mean that she should be canceled. It doesn't mean that the people who listen to her are morons, when that is the most moronic statement, and which that statement is like, I think, only a year old. That's like the craziest thing I ever heard, you know? And I'm a vaccinated guy. So what I'm saying is that she has the balls to do something like that, right? Make a mistake. That's what she has the balls to do, is to make a mistake, but then not allow other people to. And that's why those kind of clips, they go round and round and round and round. And that's why I don't care for her. Because there's no humility. When Joe screws up, he says it. When somebody corrected him, he shouted the guy out and made a video like, oh, I thought it was this. I think it was like about the myocarditis. And the guy was like, no, blah, blah, blah. And Joe's like, no, I know this. And he's like, no, you're wrong. Live on his shit, they pull up the information and Joe was wrong. He's like, oh, so you see, it's okay. I was wrong. Like, you know, he's a human being. He's not a scientist. And the science changes. That's the thing. The science changes. You know, more people learn things. Then you get guys like, I was watching something, Trevor Noah. Trevor's like, oh, you can't just be like, hey, well, I told you that the vaccine, you know, I told you that mask didn't work. And then, you know, now we find out that they don't work or whatever. He was saying, like, you know, even a broken clock is right twice. I'm like, no, bro. Like, you don't have to say that. You can just say, we were wrong. And I'm sorry. And we were wrong. And we don't know if we're all the way right now. We're doing the best that we can. And because you believe something else, or that doesn't mean that I should not respect that or acknowledge that. Even if it's like really something that, I don't subscribe to. That's the beauty of America. You're allowed to subscribe to whatever you want. And you can say, oh no, because then they're spreading disinformation and going to kill people. That's what they're saying, Joe Rogan's, the JRE, that's what they're doing. It's so funny, but that was on fucking CNN. Or no, what is that? MSNBC, that's where her fucking show is. Meanwhile, the reason why people listen to Matt Taibbi and Crystal and Sagar, which is their show is so real, Breaking Points, you must listen. It's so real that I have a hard time listening every week because it's so real that like I can't handle the truth of the hypocrisy of these people who are in charge of all of our tax dollars. These bumbling fools. All they're doing is just propaganding us to hate each other and to be in a space where you can't even look your own kid in the eye and say, listen, I'm sorry, little boo, that I was so frustrated with you crying when you were 6 years old that I grabbed you by your shirt and I shook you. And it hurts me every day, to this day, that I did that. To the point that I apologized for that. I did it on 2 separate occasions because I forgot that I did it one time. She's like, you already said sorry for that. It's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's how much it bothered me. That I lost control, that I was a human. I didn't smack her around. I didn't do any of that stuff. But I had a moment of frustration. And, yeah. And that's a great thing. And then she talks about it now, my little boo. She's everything. She's like, we don't have to go to therapy anymore. We don't fight anymore. There's no more beef. It's like, yeah, because we're both changing. And it's nice. And I love her, man, so much. She's everything. She's everything. So anyway, all right, guys, that's my rant. Oh, and the conversation I had with my friend, we can respectfully disagree. He can learn something from me. And I told him before I got off the phone, I was like, bro, and this is somebody that I admire on a human life level. His name is Kurt. He's a public school teacher, football coach. Bro, this guy knew, his parents knew my parents, in a lot of different ways. And we knew each other. I knew him my whole life. And he's somebody that I always admired. I told him I thought he was like a fucking titan when I was a kid. And even now, and I still revere him in that way. He's a knowledgeable, sensible, strong. He's an alpha male. He's a freaking alpha, but he respects the beta, and that's what's cool, So I told him when I got off the phone, I was like, bro, I learned something here. In these 41 minutes that we were talking, I learned something. So there's always something to be learned. And it starts with humility. So maybe that lady in the meeting, when I shared that about the thing that I closed my share with was, I'm not going to say that I won't screw up my kids, because I screw up a lot of things because I'm a human being. But one thing my kids will not be is in a therapist's office in their 20s or 30s or whatever, and they're not going to be sitting there like the way I'm sitting here now talking about my parents never said sorry to me ever about anything. Have a great night. Peace. We want to thank you all for joining us today. And please don't forget to like and subscribe on all podcast platforms. And and find us on Facebook where you can become part of our family. We'll see you around.